Meeting, we can get some of the other items done. Let's call the meeting to order. April 14th at 4:17. This is the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee. We are meeting at 915 Capitol Mall on the 5th floor conference room. We should call the roll first. Who's calling the roll? Michelle.
State Treasurer,
Here.
Fiona Ma. Anthony Sertic for State Controller, Betty Yee. Gail Miller for Department of Finance Director, Keely Martin Bossler. Tia,
Hold on.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Tia Boatman Patterson, Housing Finance Agency Director.
Tia?
Tia? I'll try it again.
Okay, she may be on mute, so when Sir Tom gets back, okay?
Just
One
go
more.
down. Okay, Zachary Olmsted for Acting Housing and Community Development Director, Doug McCulley.
Here.
Okay. City Representative, Vivian Marino, should be on the line.
Who?
Vivian Marino.
She on the board?
Oh, she's not being
No.
on. No,
Okay.
no. So that's it. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Is
Yeah.
Tia?
Oh, okay, we have Tia, but she's been muted. Can you unmute her?
Yeah, I'll do that right
Okay, we're doing that right now. Hold on. So she said aye.
So,
So on my cell phone,
so
so we
you
have her
have
on mute, so we have to say,
That's okay, we'll get her on here.
there, say aye again.
ready?
Tia?
Tia, say aye again.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
All right, we have a quorum. Agenda item number 2, minutes of the April 3rd, 2020 minutes. Meeting. That's Tony Sertich, motion to approve.
Gail Miller, second.
Gail Miller, seconds. Any public comments? Anyone on the phone? No? Okay. Michelle?
Yeah. Gail Miller,
Gail?
Aye. Gail Miller, aye.
Anthony Sertich,
now.
Tia Boatman Patterson,
Tia?
Aye.
Zachary Olmsted,
Aye.
Fiona Ma.
Aye. Okay, minutes have been approved. Item number 3, Executive Director's Report.
Okay, this is Judith Blackwell, Executive Director of TCAC. Many of you listened to both meetings, the SIDLAC meeting and the TCAC meeting, but I am basically reiterating points that I made in the SIDLAC meeting, which is essentially that we need to focus on the fact that we're in a challenging environment with regard to developers finding investors and other monies for their projects based on the COVID-19 problems that we have. And we have an extensive letter that was written by the Director of Finance pointing out how extreme the situation is right now and basically indicating that we're looking at an impact that is at least as great as the Great Recession. So I just want to point that out, and that it's also been made note of on the budget legislative analyst website. They also have pointed out that we're in extremely challenging financial times. And so I had said this in my board report on the 3rd, but I just wanted to point out that I'm in good company because the other finance professionals at the state are saying the same thing, if not in more extreme language. So I want people to focus on that because we have to be smart, because we're also dealing with the housing crisis, and be efficient about getting as much completed in this first half of the year, knowing that as the year goes on, developers are going to be facing more and more challenging circumstances. So today we'll be looking at the recommendation list for the 4% plus state tax credits and the other 4% projects. I just want you to note that with regard to the state tax credits, get through this whole list as recommended, there will still be another $44 million worth of state tax credits not allocated. And there will be in the general group that is not set aside for MIP, because we have $300 million in the general group. We had $200 million set aside for MIP. And in the MIP, we'll have $29 million unallocated. So I would ask you to consider thinking about giving us permission to just go through the rest of the state tax credits so that we can go as far down on the SIDLAC list as possible. And SIDLAC just recently, today, expanded how far we could go on new construction. So to me, it makes a lot of sense, because when you're talking about 29 million and 44 million, you're talking about 4 to 8 projects, depending on the size of the projects. 8 even is like a stretch. But depending on the average size of the project is 7 million to 15 million. You know, it's not a lot of projects. So, you just want to think about whether you want to put the developers through another round to get a couple of projects, or whether we maximize what we can do today, knowing that for every month you wait, the market might be a little harsher. So I just want to point that out, and of course this is something for board consideration. So with that, that's the end of my report. Oh, other than to say, and I should have mentioned this in the other meeting as well, first I want to thank TCAT staff that has been killing themselves with this round, and I want to thank SIDLAC staff that has been killing itself on this round. This was a very hard piece of work, and these guys really rose to the occasion on it, and we've even developed some new processes and procedures while doing it, and thank you all. Thank you all. So I just want to say that as well.
Yeah, I do want to echo that, because I know I've asked you to do certain things and go over certain applications again, and just really take a second look. So I thank Judith for her extra time as well.
Thank you. And then the one other person I want to thank is our new general counsel, because we ask him novel questions every hour, and he's been very responsive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Okay. All right. Item number 4, adoption of regulation changes.
Okay, so with regard to the adoption of regulation changes, I'm going to let Anthony speak to that.
Good afternoon. So the regulation changes we adopted at the last meeting, April 3rd, we had a discussion with regards to the changes that were related to the SRO housing type. And those were the only changes that were not adopted, and they were held over for this meeting. And at that meeting, at the April 3rd meeting, there was a discussion on whether or not this was a good time to make this change. And then there was also guidance from the committee to reach out to some of the locals to get their thoughts. We did get a hold of some of the locals. And there wasn't any opposition to the SROs in general. Obviously, nobody put anything formal as far as comments, but they didn't have any objections. And the main issue had to do with the SRO housing type right now, as we proposed, would capture a population that's not necessarily homeless, but maybe on the brink of becoming homeless. And some of the commenters during the normal regulation change process had stated that, if you're going to make that change, add a homeless component and require services. But I think the intent behind the proposed change was to capture some of the other population, and there were other avenues for homeless population to be addressed. So that was the basis for our proposal. So.
Right, because we do address the homeless population under special needs, and under special needs, if there was a project that was an SRO type, and it also was addressing homelessness, it would be addressed in that special needs group. So that's already, there. This is allowing, this is expanding what you could do with an SRO. Otherwise, the only way you could get to an SRO was through homelessness.
And one other thing, we just want to emphasize also that these SRO housing type is not, it's not precluding homeless populations from occupying these projects. So it's just another option for housing type, because otherwise these projects would have to have a special needs, under the current regulations, would have to have a special needs component in order to apply in the 9% round. So,
and adding the SRO type also gives us a mechanism for preservation needs for the existing SRO housing stock that's out there.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
This
Tony?
is Tony. I want to state again that I think SROs are an important part of the housing stock in California. There's no doubt that we have a lot of need for rehab of SROs. I think we've had a little time since the last meeting to review this a little closer, and I think we want to support this change, but I would like to change in section 10.325G5 that the average targeted income is no more than 30% of AMI. If we're targeting really those at the bottom end of the income levels in the state with these projects, which I think is the way to do it. That's more than double SSI incomes in most counties of the state, and I think that should be, I think that's really the target population we should have for these projects.
Madam Chair, I'd like to speak to that. This is Tia
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes, Tia?
So 100% affordable at 30% AMI is not particularly financially feasible without any rental subsidies or operating subsidies. So that is really, truly, deeply targeted affordable. And without a mix of income or operating subsidies, I don't know how the project would be financially feasible. So are you proposing that the SROs be an eligible housing type, but only if they serve 30% AMI and below?
Currently, the restriction's at 40% AMI and below. And so, yes, I'm proposing that it be targeted at 30% AMI and below, and this is for the 9% project, so they're getting a lot more equity in, and we know that a lot of localities are focused on this as well. So, yes, I mean, I don't think we expect these projects to cash flow. Generally, they're serving, the population they're serving is already below 30% AMI, so I'm not sure why we would be charging more than 30% AMI rents for these projects.
Tony, I had a quick clarifying question. Are you when you say 30%, are you saying all the tenants, or are you talking about the average AMI for the whole project?
I think the average AMI would be okay, so we could be targeting some at 20 and some at 40 in certain cases. I think, going below 15 or 20 is not really reasonable in any real way, but yeah, an average is what I would be recommending.
Madam Chair, I'd like to speak to that again.
Yes?
An average AMI for a development is basically creating public housing. I think a more reasonable would be an average AMI of 40. We could try to serve 30% AMI, but you really are setting these projects up for financial failure to say that it has to have an average AMI of 30% AMI without an ongoing operating or rental subsidy to support these projects. That's part of the problem with these projects as it is that we've limited the incomes to a certain dollar amount, and they have not cash flowed. So I'd hate to set these projects up for that same type of financial infeasibility by, again, requiring that an average income of 30% AMI or below be what we're targeting. I think 40% AMI is a little more reasonable, gives a little more flexibility, and allows for some cross subsidy for lower income and a 40% at a little higher income. But I do think we need to give some flexibility so that the capital structure and the financing structure of these SROs actually make financial sense.
This is Zach. I think, though, we're adding it to back as a housing type. That's the issue that they were trying to control for. So I think we could say, like, hey, we're fine with SROs so long as they're serving at the ELI, very good ELI level. So I hear your point. We're not necessarily, right now they can't even apply. So we're not necessarily making them infeasible. We're allowing folks a more narrow subset of SRO projects, essentially.
I don't see that as being altogether helpful, though. If what you're doing is if you're creating another public housing type via income level, average AMI of 30% AMI for a development is financially infeasible without ongoing operating or rental subsidies. So you're setting these up, even though you're making these an eligible housing type, you're almost setting them up for failure.
I hear your point, but the policy question we were trying to control for was not that. It was saying there are some folks this is not what pitched last time at least, at extremely low income levels that are not able to be served because they're not yet homeless, they're already living here, they might be on SSI, so they're well below 30% at that point, but they're not eligible to live in these projects. That's what I had heard we were trying to control for. That's all I'm trying to direct us to.
You know,
Sorry.
I just wanted to, you know, you could make that restriction, but don't you, I believe that an SRO housing type is self-selecting. I don't think you're gonna get higher, it's self-selecting. You're not gonna get the top of your income levels seeking that housing.
I generally agree, Ms. Blackwell, and that's one of my concerns about setting the income restrictions at a higher level, is really what we're doing is we're setting the rent restrictions. I think the housing type itself selects a lot of the lowest incomes to live there, and so ultimately the folks living there would just pay a higher percentage of their income to be living there. If we allow them to charge higher rents than the incomes that are living there. That being said, along these same lines, I think this should be a short-term fix that we're adding right now. I think, harping on this again, I think this all needs to be looked at this year in the rate change process so that we're not creating these blunt tools that we have this housing type or that housing type. We need to be able to better, be more nimble and flexible and compare it, figure out what the needs of the state are and be able to better measure that in this course to get to the right answer.
Tony, let me just ask you one more question. Do you think that possibly the fact that we require market studies would get you to keeping from having ridiculous rents because they're going to have to compare themselves to other SROs? In terms of rents?
It's very possible. My only concern is the controls on the market study are not always great. Not from staff level, but from just the industry level. I've seen good ones, I've seen not so good ones, and I think if this is the population we want to target, we should put it in the regs. If it's not, then we shouldn't put it in the regs.
Well, I'm also hearing that it may be very difficult for projects to pencil, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's, the less income, like Tia said,
Without other
the lower
subsidy.
incomes without any rental subsidy, it would be probably a little difficult.
I mean, I think at this time we're trying to be as flexible and open to as many people to have a roof over their head. And so I would err on the side of, being a little bit broader versus narrower during this time.
So I understand where you're coming from, but I think that the 9% program has been oversubscribed for years. So this money will be used. It's just a question of which projects will receive it. And ultimately, the more wide we make the SRO definition, the less public good we may be getting out of the money that we're providing. And I also fully understand the issue about feasibility. And like I said, I think we need to, my concern is we're putting SROs sort of on par with other housing types with this scoring. And I think we need to make sure that we put the proper restrictions on them so that we're not overly incentivizing projects that may fit into a bucket that we don't really need to make that wide.
Can staff share why they selected 40%?
I know in the previous, before it was taken out of the regs, it was at 40%, and we basically maintained a lot of the requirements that we had previously.
Okay, thanks.
And I want to remind the board, Madam Chair, this is Tia, that SROs taken out as an eligible use was kind of inadvertent. There was no real policy reason for taking SROs out as an affordable, as a housing type. It got caught up in some of the other changes when we were moving to permanent supportive housing. So there hasn't been a rational, real policy reason for moving those out. And so what you've gotten rid of is the ability to finance vanilla, extremely low income housing.
Right.
And to be fair, the vast majority of any, not that there are any, but any new project coming in that's doing substantial rehab with, converting a existing hotel short-term rentals to an affordable housing project would still easily qualify under the special needs definition. It's really the existing long-term SROs that are having problems qualifying under the special needs definition because the folks that are already there are not homeless, or I think there could be an argument that they're at risk of immediate homelessness, which would qualify them for special needs, but that may be more difficult to get to.
And I want to remind the board that all homeless are not necessarily special needs and need of service. There are some folks that are just poor and need housing.
I understand, but the definition of TCAP right now includes homeless that are poor as special needs.
I'm sorry. So what are,
Gail?
go ahead, Doc.
Gail?
I was going to say, if the policy direction is to serve ELI, then we should align with what the definition of extremely low income is, and that's 30% or below. If that's our policy goal, we should be aligning with how we define extremely low income. That seems reasonable.
40% AMI is low income as well, Zach.
But it's not extremely low income. We have a definition of extremely low income. It's 30% or below. And I even heard you say,
Is ACD going to come in and support operating subsidies and rental subsidies for these SROs?
well, again, yeah, probably. When those applications come in, to the degree where there's financing. I mean, I just wanted to redirect us back. The policy justification was to serve extremely low income folks who are not homeless. If it's low income folks, it's a different discussion, but I even heard you use the phrase extremely low income. And so if that is the policy goal, I think we should align with the definition of extremely low income. If we want to push it higher, we can have that discussion. But
40% was what was in. 40% was what was in the regulations prior to it being inadvertently taken out. By
I
pushing
understand
it
that,
lower,
but
by pushing it lower, I think you're making things financially infeasible. Now, if you all don't want to fund these as a housing type, that's a different discussion.
Okay, can we hear from the public? Any members of the public wishing to come and give us your input? Caleb.
Hello, Madam Chair. Thank you for continuing on with the day. I'll be interested to hear what folks that do this housing on the phone, if there are any, might have to say about it. But I can just say, as a developer that does develop permanent supportive housing, that the more that we're restricted or confined or pinned down, our flexibility diminishes and our ability to financially produce these projects becomes impaired. And so, someone can always voluntarily go down to 30. HCD, if they want to subsidize things, can restrict things down to 30. There's all kinds of moves that other agencies can make, but you're not going to get SRO housing built at 30% AMI on the natural. It's going to take a partnership with another agency. So let that agency set the lower bar, and why do you guys need to set the lower bar? And then from there they can go the direction they need to. So those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other members on the phone?
Caller.
Okay. Caller?
You have 4 questions remaining.
Hello?
Hi everyone, it's William. Hi everyone, it's William Leach.
Hi, William.
Wanted to echo the concern that a 30% average AMI for a project is fundamentally infeasible, and we will be setting our portfolio up for significant difficulties or significant dependence on vouchers in the future if we require projects to use a 30 AMI average. The projects in the past prior to the 9% focusing applicants at a 50 AMI average. There were other incentives to have people commit to 45 AMI or 40 AMI averages for a project as a whole. And many of those projects became financially infeasible as utility rates went up and as operating expenses inflated. And pretty much any time you go below about 42% average AMI, the project will be financially infeasible even prior to year 15. And so I would urge you not to go and add that requirement. If the only way to bring the set-aside back is as a plea for extremely low income, then I understand some of the committee members' comments. But if the action is just let's reinstate the housing type so that it continues to be an option, then I would recommend keeping it at 40.
Okay, thank you, William. Next speaker?
You have 4 questions remaining.
Yes, hello? Speaker? No?
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
ma'am?
yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
This is
Hi, Pat.
Sable House. On behalf of the California Council for Affordable Housing, we have a number of members that have devoted a good part of their efforts over the last 30 years to the development of SROs. As I said to many of you in my last mail on this, is that in 87, when the tax credit program was implemented in California, there was a major effort on behalf of local jurisdictions to basically incentivize developers to get into the SRO business, because local jurisdictions felt that this was a partial answer to a big problem that they were facing with people that were in the various lowest income categories and were on SSI or senior citizens with no place else to go. As Tia said, these were just low income people that needed to be served. And it was a minimal kind of facility that was being built. Some of them, as you recall, had shared bathrooms, which in many cases turned out to be more of a problem. And we then shifted over the years to doing more studio-type units with bathrooms and mini kitchens at each of them. And all of these projects that were done some 20 or 25, some of them 30 years ago, some of them without tax credits that were done in 86 when the big push was on to do this. Those projects, as Ms. Boatman-Patterson indicated, are in trouble now. They haven't been rehabbed for years. They are serving people usually between 35 and 45% of AMI to get to a 40% AMI rent, and they still struggle to survive. Many of them, of the 12 or 13,000 units out there, are losing money at this point because their initial deposit for a subsidy that came from the 9% program expired. It ran out after 20 years or so, and so many of these projects are being fed now by the developers, because you can't just walk away from them. You just can't abandon them because of the difficulty that will cause you as a developer going forward. And so I had pleaded in my last email to all of you to consider the consequences of not allowing these projects to be reinstated as a housing type, so that they can come forth and take some of the 9% proceeds that come out of the 9% program to do the significant amount of rehab, which is generally going to be more than 100 to 125,000 a unit, to get these projects back up to the point where they need to be habitable and acceptable to the population that has to live there. And if you push this down to 30% AMI, you will surely be bankrupting these projects even more so than they're bankrupt already. You simply can't, without a Section 8 project-based subsidy, you simply can't have these projects functioning financially with a 30% AMI, because they, as William Leach just said, but probably 42% is your cutoff on just breaking even. So I urge you to adopt the resolution that will make this a housing type and allow these projects to try to compete in the 9% program. It's not a set aside. We did have a set aside of 4% of the money prior to the removal of this in 2016. But here we're just saying let the housing type be and let it be eligible for 9% credits. And if the local jurisdiction can step up to the plate because they have so much redevelopment money into these deals that it's in their very interest to try to figure out a way to assist with the restructuring of the finance to keep these projects afloat and to keep them serving the population that nobody else wants to serve. So thank you for considering my view.
Thank you, Pat. Next caller.
You have 3 questions remaining.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Kürşat with Miracle Investments. As we stated on the April 3rd hearing, we do support strongly Tia's position as well as Williams and Ted Sablehouse. We have a prospective deal in Gaslamp Quarter in San Diego and, averaging 40% AMI. I think, we do believe that lowering the AMI would not help with the feasibility of the project, and we do believe that you should keep the changes as you are recommending, which would prevent homelessness. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
You have 2 questions remaining.
Hello.
Hi, this is Mary Ann Lim calling from EAH Housing. I also want to agree that for projects with average AMI of 30%, a lot of developers rely on rental subsidies using project-based vouchers, and many housing authorities are already bumping up against their maximum voucher authority, and until there is a state rental subsidy available, requiring the 30% average AMI would make projects infeasible. Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Next
have
speaker.
1 question remaining.
Hello.
Hi, this is Bo again from Chinatown GDP in San Francisco. I also like to speak in support of all the people who spoke just in front of me. We actually own a lot of SROs with low to extremely low income residents, and we don't have subsidies on these projects. And the city actually, there's Office of Housing and Community Development is encouraging us to purchase privately owned SRO properties that are at risk of losing their affordability status. But a lot of these projects do not pencil out at 30% AMI, and that's the issue we're running into. So if we can include this back in as a housing type and also raise the AMI level, it would really make it feasible moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Bo. Since you're on, are the SROs all oversubscribed? Are there waiting lists?
Yeah, they're packed.
Yeah.
And we are having an issue right now because shelter in place in terms of keeping the residents safe at the same time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no more calls. Anyone have a motion?
I'm happy to move as suggested by staff with 40% AMI. And this is Gail Miller, sorry.
And this is Tia Patterson, and I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Michelle?
Gail Miller,
Aye.
Anthony Sertich,
Aye.
Tia Boatman Patterson,
Aye.
Zachary Olmsted,
Aye.
Fiona Mall.
Aye. Okay, staff resolution passes. Okay.
All right.
Item number 5,
Okay.
appeals.
There are 2 appeals. One is CA 2499, Terracina at Lancaster.
The deadline for that appeal was yesterday, and we did not receive an appeal, and they confirmed that they did not submit appeal
Okay,
to
okay,
the committee.
All right.
Right.
And then the other one is CA 2565, Aria.
Which you guys discussed at the SIDLAC meeting, so.
Well, you should.
Anyway, okay, so this appeal was, well, we typically just let the appellant speak, but I'm happy to summarize the issue. The issue basically is the site inspection date exceeded the 12-month requirement prior to our application filing deadline. It's specific in the regs that that requirement has to be met. Otherwise, a brand new market study needs to be completed and submitted in the application. So,
Yeah, so as Anthony mentioned, it's the identical issue that we just ever into that.
Madam Chair, this is Gail Miller. Maybe I'm happy to hear from the applicant again, but in the interest of time, I do think it's important that we follow these rules and restrictions, and it's as badly as I feel, because I think we've all made mistakes. I think in this case, we have to keep the integrity of the application system, so I wouldn't support moving on, if that's helpful in terms of moving the meeting along.
Yes,
I don't think there's any need for it since they don't have a bond allocation at this point.
that is true. Okay, item number 6.
well, actually, if I can go back to 5, there was one other listed appeal. It was for Frischman Hollow, but that was granted at the executive director's level. But with that, on this agenda item, it also is requesting approval. So we would now, given that the appeal has been granted, we would recommend it for approval on this agenda item. This is a 4% federal with state in the mixed income program.
On item 6.
No, item
Item
5.
number 5.
This is
Oh, okay,
still on
all
the
right.
appeals.
Okay.
So basically, if the appeal came before the committee, if it was granted, we would just recommend it for approval for the committee. So we can take that one now.
Okay. So that's an action item?
So yes,
All
so
right.
you're recommending it for approval of 4% federal and state credits under with the Cal HFA mixed income program.
And that's Frischman Hollow CA 20-548.
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion, members?
I just granted it.
Chair, I just don't understand where this is on is this on the email we just got from you, Mr. Zito, or is it somewhere
No,
else?
this one is actually included on the list on agenda item 8, but
I granted the appeal, but I got it done yesterday. I'm so sorry. Isn't that the Freshman Hollow one?
no, that one was
Oh, I'm
last
missing
week.
another
No, it was
one.
last week.
I think we just missed the cutoff for the.
We missed it from when we had to post the meeting notice. So with the appeals, we typically would just take the appeal, and then if it's granted, then we would just entertain that reservation at that item.
This is Gina, we don't list it twice on the agenda. It wouldn't make sense to list it twice on the agenda. That's why it's being taken out of order. Normally, it would be with action item 8, but we can't do that because it was has a pending appeal. So we need to, staff is recommending.
Madam Chair, is this just,
It seems like it's an administrative
Yeah, it is.
okay, so,
issue.
got it.
But this is an action item?
Yes.
Yes.
We're asking that you grant a reservation of credit.
I move to approve.
A reservation of credit? Yes. Thank you. Tony? Motion?
Gail Miller, second.
Motion is second. Any members of the public wishing to speak? Anyone on the phone? No one on the phone. Okay, Michelle, please call the roll.
Gail Miller,
Aye.
Anthony Sertich,
Aye.
Tia Bolton Patterson,
Tia?
Is she on mute?
I'm sorry. Aye.
Okay.
Zachary Olmsted,
Aye.
and Fiona Moss.
Aye. Okay,
Okay.
that has been granted.
All right. So now we're at item 6.
Item number 6.
And item number 6 is the list of all of the projects that we're recommending that have federal 4% credit but do not have state.
And Gina can add some specificity on that.
Yes, I did want to say a couple of things. This is Gina Ferguson. I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank development staff and the development manager Connie Harina. A lot of work went into this round. So I wanted to personally thank staff and management for this. We reviewed about 90 applications this round, which is about 4 times what staff normally reviews. So it was very challenging. We're happy to have this behind us. I would also like to note that there was an error on the agenda, which was my fault, and 2 projects were left off of the agenda, and that is for action item number 6. That would be Overlook Street Apartments 20-482 and St. Stephen's Retirement Center 20-458. When this error was identified, it was too late to add these items back on the agenda because of the 10-day noticing period. So staff is requesting that on May 20th, when there is a CIDLAC meeting, that we quickly hold a brief TCAC meeting subsequent to the CIDLAC meeting, and we can move for reservation of credits of these two projects if the committee would grant this request.
And so this is Light Tree 2?
No, this is, I'm sorry, this is Ulrich. There is no piece of paper for this.
Oh, there's no paper,
No,
okay.
these two projects should be on the agenda and under action item number 6, but they are not on the agenda.
Okay. All right, so they'll be.
They're listed in the email, and thank you for that, Gina, and for all of your work and staff's work. The Ulrich is listed on the 4% credit list that Tony just sent, that Anthony just sent out.
Yes, Ulrich should receive a bond allocation and a credit reservation.
We're just gonna have to hold
Okay.
all
We
right
won't
until the
be
next-
able to
Got it.
provide an actual formal reservation until May 20th.
May 20th. Okay, that makes sense. I'm happy to do that. That makes sense to me.
Okay, thank you, and I do apologize. The golden rod that you have in front of you is for Light Tree 2 is related to an error in the staff report that we just wanted to highlight before you vote on this action item number 6. There's a correction to some language on page 2. There was a subsidy that was identified as a VASH veterans voucher. The project has a Section 8 voucher, but it is not a VASH veteran Section 8 voucher. So we just wanted to point out that the staff report's been corrected subsequent to you receiving a copy of it.
I would like to move to approve the staff's recommendations, with the note that I feel like this color coding is trying to come at me since I'm colorblind, but I still recommend to approve.
If it's helpful.
Can I give an explanation of what the color coding is?
Yeah, I think Anthony can provide that, and the entire list is being broken up between items 6, 7, and 8, and also 9, so I'll let Anthony talk about that, but right now we are voting on item number 6, which is about 15 of the projects under item 6 are going to be approved.
What color?
Okay, so the color yellow are the ones that were on CIDLAC's list, okay? The ones on orange are the ones that we reached down to get to after the range was extended down to the 800 million in the new construction. And then the green are TCAC only. But I guess we were trying to figure out, so should we...
So TK only would be the 4%?
No, well, they're all 4%, but it's they didn't, I guess they don't have a bond allocation yet. I don't know if they're going to...
They only apply to TCAC.
They only apply to TCAC. So we could award these projects based on, similar to what we did, I think, at the previous meeting, where there's a condition that they receive bond allocation. Now the color-coded ones, obviously, the yellow and orange ones, got a bond allocation at the last meeting, or at the CIDLAC meeting that preceded this one. As far as the other projects, they don't have a bond allocation, so they would apply, I guess, at a future round. These are federal only. So I don't know how we should
So
I guess
so the
phrase it.
green ones were not joint applications?
Correct.
The white
Yeah, I
ones,
would like to,
the white ones are not.
a conditional award on those.
Okay.
So I'll amend my resolution to conditionally award all of these projects credits as long as their bond allocation, as long as they receive a bond allocation. Or have received.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Service, are you moving then this entire list that we received is that correct?
The first page is item 6, the second page is item 7, and the third page is item 8. So right now I'm just moving item 6, since that's what we're talking about.
Item 6, and then with the conditional approval for the items in green. But I just feel like everyone needs to know what those items are. So, Madam Chair, is it okay if I read those off just so folks on the phone know which ones are conditional?
Yeah, because I got a couple of lists in front of me too, so that would be helpful.
I know. Okay, so the conditional awards that are contingent on a CIDLAC allocation, even though they haven't yet applied, would be CA 20-900, and then they all begin with 20, 900, 901, 902, 903, and 904. Glen Loma Ranch Apartments, The Village at Burlingame, Sepulveda Apartments, Skirts Maze Apartments, and Hilltop Commons Apartments. So those 4 awards are being granted conditionally pending a SID-like allocation. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. Well, then I would second Mr. Soto's motion.
Okay, there's a motion second. Any members of the public? Oh, one, Caleb?
Yeah, I just want to clarify this is Caleb Roop again, I want to clarify for Gail Miller's, is the Glen Loma Ranch and the Village of Burlingame already have a SID-like allocation from last year. So they're just now showing up for their credits. They were awarded in the December round. It may be true of these other projects as well. I don't know them, but just FYI, that is the case with those 2 projects there, Glen Loma and Village.
Hilltop Commons, I believe, also.
Okay, so actually, Mr. Sturgis, you'll want to amend your motion, though, to say,
Yeah, I think if they have or they must have received or will receive.
okay. I said it was still pending, so I think the motion should be that it's approved, assuming that they either have or will receive, right? Is that what the motion is? I just so people aren't confused.
Yeah, that's fine.
I would agree if they have that, or if they have bond allocation, or if they receive bond allocation in the future.
Okay.
And I second that. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. And there are no members of the public? No one on the phone? Oh, there's one.
You have 1 question remaining.
Caller?
Hello, this is Kurshat with Nuclear Investments. Again, I wanted to follow up on St. Stephen's. I was confused. I didn't understand what was said in terms of conditional reservation of the tax credits. St. Stephen Retirement Center.
All of the tax credits that are being considered today need to have a bond allocation in order for the tax credit reservation to be valid.
Okay.
So, St. Stephen's has one or not?
St. Stephen's was one of the ones that was left off of the.
I do not believe St. Stephen's has a bond allocation.
And they're one of the ones that was left off the.
St. Stephen's was left off of the TCAP
Remember those 2 projects that were left off?
agenda.
Oh, so they're gonna be heard again in May?
In May, correct.
Okay.
As needed.
Yeah, they didn't receive a bond allocation, so they're not going to receive tax credit.
That's correct. But I did
Okay,
want to highlight
thank you.
that, we left them off the agenda. In mistake.
Thank you.
Okay. Any others? Seeing none?
And Gina, we all make mistakes. We've all been there. So thank you for being so forthright, and we totally get it.
Thank you, Gail. Very
Thank
much.
you. Okay. Michelle?
Gail Miller,
Aye.
Anthony Sertich, Tia Bowton Patterson,
Aye.
Zachary Olmsted,
Aye.
Fiona Mall.
Aye. Okay, item number 6,
Yes.
preliminary reservations federal tax credits only have been approved. Item number 7.
Right. So item number 7 is federal 4% plus state tax credits, not the MIPS though. And I don't know, Anthony, if you have anything to add, it will be page 2 of the 3 sheets that Anthony sent out.
Yeah, it's the same color coding. So the yellow ones are the ones that were on SIDLAC's original list, and the orange ones were the ones that were added based on going down to the 800 million. And as you can see, the running total for state tax credits is 143, 544, 229. So we did not exhaust the full 150, but it does leave about 8 million in state tax credits at the end of this round cycle.
So yellow means
So basically, we
On
recommend
SIDLAC's
yellow and orange.
yellow and orange. Okay.
And move approval, Madam Chair.
Before, I just wanted to highlight, there was also a correction to one of the staff reports in this group, number 20-517, Childs and B Street TOD Affordable Housing. On page 3, there was an error in the project cost. A correction was made to the land cost. The purchase agreement had some confusing references about the parcel size and cost proration. And subsequent to the staff report being finalized, the applicant provided clarification, and the Goldenrod staff reports reflects the correct numbers on page 3.
Okay, and I just want to add one other point, because we received a lot of calls on this. CA 20541 Amani Apartments is the same Amani Apartments that applied in the previous round and ended up at the line, straddling the line where they needed like a certain amount, and we only had $2 more million left in that round, and it was not enough to fund them. They did apply again. They did end up below the line. They are requesting $7,999,040, and you can see them toward the second last on the page. They contacted me and indicated that they wanted to appeal. There is no mechanism. It's not called appeal, okay? Because you can't appeal from round 1 to be added in round 2. That wouldn't be called an appeal. But I just wanted to mention it because there was a lot of interest in this in the last round, and they have been making phone calls. I'm going to kind of assume that they're probably out there listening on the call if they have comments. And there's one call after.
Okay. Caller?
You have one question remaining.
Hello?
Hi, this is William Leach. My comment general is not about the Amani Apartments, but Anthony, you mentioned 143 million running total. Can you confirm that that includes projects that are on the wait list, which I believe are item number 9?
4.
Yes, it does. And I know that the wait list is, I guess, going to be, taken at agenda item 9, so we could hold off on those projects. But basically, typically when we have a waiting list, after the waiting list has been adopted, we administratively reserve the credits via reservation letter. So we could hold off those, and we could state those in the motion if necessary.
And I'd just like to confirm, I have an old version of the waiting list. Would you confirm that 2 particular projects of interest are on it? 20-553, Hollywood's Arts Collective, and 20-547, La Prensa Libre?
Yes.
Those are yellow on your list?
Correct.
Thank you so much.
Okay, any other members of the public wishing to comment? Seeing none?
This is
Tony?
Tony. I just had a follow-up question about Amani Apartments. I'm a little confused. Is the plan to award Amani Apartments or not to award them with the state?
So, staff, we don't have a way to do it. It would have to be a board decision. And I know the board was a little frustrated with the fact that they were straddling the line in the last go-round, and that's why I took it upon myself to mention it this time. But we don't have
it's on the list, so I assumed it was going to be awarded, but either, okay.
But it fell below, it falls, but it's below the line though.
This is Gina. If I could clarify, they are not being funded out of the group. We are hitting the $150 million. We would hit the $150 million mark before we would be able to fund them.
I thought when we allocated the second $150 million, we agreed that it was $150 million for the first round and then the remainder for the second round.
That's not.
So any amount that was under in the first round would carry over to the second. So shouldn't it be slightly more than $150 million? million?
We did that for the third round. If you read the language of the regulations, it's 150 flat for the first 2 rounds, unless you would like to change that.
No, okay. So we're gonna have a third round with about $8 million left in this.
And we also have, I believe we have some NIP left as well. Almost 29.5 million.
And that's one of the things I suggested at the beginning of the
That's what you were
meeting,
saying.
was that these little pieces that are left, I would favor us bringing them forward and going down a little further, rather than going through all of that administrative work to make them go later in the year and only fund a couple of projects. It basically mirrors my thinking with regard to SIDLAC.
Yeah, trying to push projects out now.
Bringing demand forward.
Along those lines, I think the board's intent when we said that the carry forward would go to the third round was that I think that was when we were thinking a little differently about this allocation. I think it was this was theoretically supposed to be the final round of state credits, straight state credit allocation. We might have moved it a little bit. I don't think there's a reason we should hold off to the third round to allocate the remainder of the state credits, at least the non-MIP state credits. But I would love to hear other board members' thoughts on that.
Other members?
If we awarded
Tia?
go ahead, Tia. No, go ahead, Tia. If we awarded, because I think what we're saying is that there's only $8 million left for the next round in non-MIP state tax credits. If we went ahead and awarded those $8 million to a deal that had already received bond allocation, would Amani be getting funded state tax credits since we have about $8 million left and they need 7.9, I think?
Yeah, they've already got the SIDLAC award.
I'm supportive of Mr. Sertich, who is saying that that we should go ahead and award those as opposed to holding $8 million over for next round.
So again, Madam Chair, sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm supportive as well. I just want to make sure, I don't even know who these people are I'm speaking on behalf of, but just that everyone would have this opportunity at a future date and where this is on the agenda so folks know it's available to them. So that's really my only concern with all of these is that whatever we're doing now, because I think we're going to be dealing with a lot of these questions and issues for a while, it's just that we're consistent. So if someone was unsuccessful, how could they bring something back up to the board, and where on the agenda is this to make sure that in the future all other applicants know they can do the same thing?
Gail, this is Gina. Amani is actually, they did reapply to TCAC and they are on the waiting list. So if we want to take this up when we have the agenda item for the waiting list, that's number 9, we can. But they do appear on the waiting list and they did reapply to TCAC.
Oh, great, that's really helpful. So in the future, if someone wanted to get the same board consideration, if there was some leftover state tax credit again in the future, they could say they wanted to appeal and then appear on the waiting list. Is that correct?
Well, they reapplied. They actually reapplied.
So you reapply and then you're on a waiting list. Okay, I don't see them on my waiting list, but I may have it bold. Oh, on the waiting list online. Got it. Okay, thank you for that. So I think, Mr. Walker, then do we want to do this under the waiting list authority then?
Yes.
Blackwell?
Yes, that'd be more appropriate.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay. Tia?
I'm good with waiting until the appropriate time.
Okay. Phone?
I move to approve, award the projects, agenda item 7, and that have received bond allocation.
A second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. Anthony?
Do we want to clarify that we're not taking the waiting list ones just yet? Since it is...
We're not.
Okay.
The ones you applied in agenda item number 7, but not the ones that were on the waiting list?
Right. And there is someone on the phone.
You have 1 question remaining.
Hello? Caller?
Hi, this is David Hetherington from Wakeland Housing. I'm responding to the Amani Apartments question. It sounds like this will be brought up in a different agenda item now, so I can wait to that agenda item if you prefer.
Okay, yeah, if you wouldn't mind. So there is
Sure.
a motion and a second. Michelle?
Gail Miller,
Aye.
Anthony Sertich, Tia Boatman Patterson,
Aye.
Zachary Olmsted,
Aye.
Fiona Mall.
Aye. Okay, staff recommendation passes. All right, agenda item number 8.
Okay. Okay, item number 8 is federal tax credits plus state tax credits with MIP.
And what does yellow mean? They're all yellow.
Recommending all of them, they all got their bond.
They're all in the money. We recommend the whole list. And with this, there will be $29 million of state tax credits left that haven't been allocated to the MIP program.
How much is left?
29 million.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Madam Chair, Tia, I move agenda item 8 with staff recommendation.
I second that.
Is that Zach? Okay. Motion by Tia, second by Zach. Any members of the public wishing to comment? We have one person on the phone.
You have one question remaining.
Hello? Anyone on the phone?
Maybe that was David Heather too.
Oh. Did they hang up?
Oh, wait, they call him again.
Oh, hold on.
You have one question remaining.
Hello? Caller? No? Okay. Michelle, please take
You
it.
have one question remaining.
Sir Tom? Hello? Hello?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, did Michelle call my name? Oh, you're talking to the caller, I
No,
apologize.
not yet.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Okay, Michelle.
Gail Miller,
Aye.
Anthony Sertich,
Aye.
Tia Boatman Patterson,
Aye.
Zachary Olmsted,
Aye.
Fiona Mall.
Aye. Okay, staff recommendation passes. All right, item number 9, waiting list.
If I could just clarify something, this is Gina.
Sure.
For agenda items 6 through 9, any projects that don't receive a bond allocation pursuant to the CIDLAC April 14th meeting are not eligible for tax credit reservation, and they will need to reapply. We've had a few questions about that in the last couple of weeks, so we just wanted to reiterate that publicly, that if you don't receive a bond allocation, then you won't receive a credit reservation, and you'll need to reapply to TCAC and CIDLAC jointly. Thank you.
Okay.
So this item number 9 is discussion and consideration of a resolution establishing a waiting list of pending applications for federal 4% plus state tax credits, provided that credit remains available and such applications are complete, eligible, and financially feasible.
Just to note, there are 4 projects on this waiting list that received a bond allocation, and if Amani is added to that list, there will be 5. So we are recommending the adoption of the waiting list, but we're also noting that staff has reviewed all of these projects for completeness, and 4 have a CIDLAC bond allocation pursuant to the last meeting, and we're considering adding Amani as well. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes? Tony?
I would add as well, I know on the CIDLAC side, that very respected board asked for, gave borrowers, developers a 60-day grace period for returning their bonds. I think on the state credits, we want to make sure that TCAC is aware of any returns as well within 60 days, and that we'll give them a grace period on the points tied to the bonds, since the state credits are competitive as well.
Okay, that's a good point.
I agree.
This is Gina again. Tony, I just wanted to make a note, and for the committee to consider. We are going to provide reservation letters immediately following this meeting. the waiting list does expire on April 30th. We did that because we were expecting a May round to immediately follow this. I don't think that this grace period jeopardizes it, these waiting list projects, because we're going to issue a reservation letter immediately, but if we need to extend that waiting list period pursuant to your 60 days, I think we could do that through a motion. I just wanted to bring that up. I don't want anything to fall through the cracks.
Yeah, if we approve the 5 projects, 2510, 2574, 2553, 2541, and 2547, there probably won't be a waiting list, right?
I think we'll have exhausted the state credit that we have available, yes.
But we also have exhausted the projects that receive bonds as well, right?
Yes. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is Tia. I have a question.
Yes, Tia.
How long will the waiting list be available? So if folks turn back in bonds, so that folks how does that work exactly? I'm trying to figure out how long the waiting list on the state tax credits work.
Well, I would suggest that we add some time to that waiting list, just so we have maximum flexibility. Since this is the first time we've done this, just in case we're not thinking of something.
I have a clarifying question on that. This is Gina. My understanding from the last meeting was that if bonds were returned, you wouldn't move down the SIDLAC list. Did I understand that correctly?
I think I agree with you, Gene. I don't think there was a mechanism on the SIDLAC side for a waiting list.
Right. You know what? We never discussed it. The waiting list.
So I think we set one up.
So I need a clarifying question. So we're coming up with a wait list for tax credits, but we didn't come up with a waiting list for bonds. So does that mean folks can be on the wait list for tax credits but not have been allocated a bond yet?
Tia, this
We've
might help.
We've always had a wait list at TCAP.
This might help. So we've received applications for non-MIP state tax credits totaling $206 million in state credits. And since we were limited to $150 million, that's how we divided these 2 agenda items. So all of the projects in the TCAP ranking that ranked high enough to be on the $150 million list, those were on agenda item number 7, I think. And then the remaining projects that had requested state credits are on the waiting list. And we're doing a process similar to what we did last time with SIDLAC, where SIDLAC bonds are the determining factor. So the items on the waiting list that we are highlighting as being eligible to receive a tax credit reservation because they received a bond allocation, we're basically following SIDLAC's bond allocation, which is why we're immediately reaching down into the waiting list right now. Hopefully that clarifies things a little bit.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, we have 2 people on the phone.
You have 2 questions remaining.
Hi, this is David Hetherington from Wakeland Housing. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to confirm, it sounds like Amani will be funded, or that it sounds like that will be the recommendation today. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying
That's
to
the recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. That's my comment, or my request.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
You have 1 question remaining.
Hello?
Hi, this is Tyler Monroe with Tom Stafford and Associates. I think my question was answered by both Gina and the caller before me to confirm that the items in number 9, requesting state credits from the wait list, will be awarded state credits this round. So if that's the case, then I do not have a question. Thank you for taking my call.
Yes.
Madam Chair, do you mind just clarifying that? I lost a little bit of track too.
Okay.
Mr. Stafford, the previous callers?
Yes, so,
Is that what
yeah,
Okay.
I think they were checking on Hollywood Arts Collective. So the ones that are up for approval is West Carson Villas. Huh?
So the waiting list, basically, like Gina said.
Oh, because Hollywood Arts Collective was agenda item 7
Yes.
and was already approved?
Yes, they were just on the list, kind of identifying where the ones that got bond allocation also. But they were below that line, so we held those that were below that line for this agenda item. Because basically we have to just adopt the waiting list and then we can pull the projects from the waiting list. And I think, like Gina said, we establish a waiting list because we don't know necessarily where the bonds are gonna go. And I think at the last meeting, our meeting took place before SIDLAX. This one, SIDLAX obviously took place before, and now that we know that they got a bond allocation, we can move forward with the state credit reservation on these.
So what I just
Okay, you have to forgive me, Mr. Zito, I may be being really slow, but does that mean everyone below the line on agenda item 7 now receives a state tax credit?
No, the only one that does not is West Carson Villas, 509, because they did not receive a bond allocation.
I understand. Okay, so all of them except West Carson Villas receive a state tax credit, or a federal tax credit, and a state tax credit, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes.
Can you tell I'm on hour 6 of this meeting? Okay.
Yeah, me too.
I'm sorry.
So I have one question. Do we have to actually adopt the waiting list, since that's what the item is, and then we could award them as we would, right?
You're right. Yes.
Okay.
I would like to move to adopt the new list with the, as well as award any, apply any unused round 1 state tax credits to this round 3 award.
I'll second that. This is Gail Miller. Thank you, Mr. Sertich.
Round 2 award, this round award.
Understand? Okay. All right. There's a motion and a second. I think we've taken any more on the phone?
No.
No. Okay. Michelle?
Gail Miller,
Aye.
Anthony Sertich, Tia Boatman Patterson,
Aye.
Zachary Olmsted,
Aye.
Fiona Mall.
Aye. All right. So, waiting list and awards have been approved. Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
you just have item 10? General.
Agenda item number 10, public comment. Anyone? Oh, we have 2 on the phone.
You have 3 questions remaining.
First caller. Hello?
Yes, hi everyone. It's Rich Wallach with Burbank Housing. I was just inquiring as to the status of the 9% disaster credits and when those regulations might be coming out.
That's a good question.
Really soon, and as a matter of fact, if we were actually capable of distributing them in the same week that we were preparing for this meeting, we would have, but we're just not capable of that. So next week.
Next week, a draft is going to go up on the website for comment.
Yes.
Do we have a date?
No, I don't have a date because I'm looking at the person that's producing them. No.
All right, here we go. Hold on. Gina's coming.
She's working very, very hard, and I don't want to
I
pin her
know.
into a further
Thank you,
corner.
Gina. I know
I'll just say next week.
She's in early and stays late every day.
Thank you, Judith, for your patience with
Yeah,
me.
I mean, if I'm going to pick a date, I'll say Friday.
We need to have one more meeting internally
Yeah.
and then we can publish them. So we plan to do that next week, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just couldn't multitask.
Before Friday.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, next caller.
You have 1 question remaining.
Hello?
Hi, it's William Leach. I just wanted to commend staff. This was a lot of effort, and they did a really good job, in my opinion, of moving everything along as quickly as possible. Also want to say a big thank you to the committee for deliberating on these issues and coming to a great conclusion that gets as much housing out as possible, but also in a thoughtful manner. I just want to appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, and I do also want to thank everyone. I think this has been a collaborative process with everybody working together during the housing crisis, but as well as during this pandemic. So I thank everyone for their patience, their understanding, and their just willingness to all come to the table and be open to all sorts of situations that have popped up over this last couple rounds.
Thank you.
Oh, one more caller.
Chair, oh.
You have one question remaining.
Hello, caller? Hello, on the phone?
Not trying to keep you in your meeting. This is Pat, Sable House again.
Hi, Pat.
I keep putting myself on mute. Let me ask to clarify. We're all tired tonight, but are the projects that are approved for state credits approved subject to receiving a bond cap, or if they don't have bond cap now, are they not approved? Are the credits given back? The state credits.
I'm sorry, Pat. Can you say that again, please?
Yeah, I thought, Judith, that Mr. Sertich had motioned early on in the beginning that the list that you provided would be approved subject to the projects receiving a bond cap either already now in place or in the future. And I'm confused as to whether projects like 1322 O Street that did not receive bond cap today, are they then going to lose the state credits that were on the agenda for today?
I'm going to look at
Or do they-
I'm going to look at a subject matter expert.
My motion was only for the 4% only projects, the projects that on the state, that were receiving 4% plus states. The state credits are gone, so they will have to reapply in full next year when the credits come back.
Okay, so the state credits for 1322 O Street and any other project that didn't receive bond cap.
They come back. They come back in 90 days.
Okay.
Sit like her teacher.
Good, thank you very much.
Madam Chair, this is Tia. I hate to keep us any longer.
Okay.
But have we now allocated all of the $300 million in state tax credits with the last action that was taken? And what does that mean is, what's left?
We've
Do you have an idea?
I think there's a de minimis.
Okay, you know what, we've allocated all of the 300 million, however, when we go back and sharpen our pencils, it's gonna be some kind of teeny, beany, like under $1 million piece left, because we've gotta look at the exact amounts of each of these deals on the waiting list. I'm looking at Anthony, you know, we don't have the number, these guys really killed themselves to get this list out.
Well, and I think the thing is we don't, I don't know how many more MIP projects are out there, but like Gina said, we have about 29 and a half left, but it looks like we have like 26,000 or 26,782 left in the normal 300. So I know the MIP program state credits was an up to 200. So depending on how many more projects there, could it be the case that we could utilize any excess ones from that pot to fund additional projects?
And I'm just trying to reconcile so that I know what's left. You still have about 29 million left in the up to 200 pool.
Right,
Is that correct?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll work with you offline to reconcile some of that and let you know what we still have in the pipeline.
Right, so we have $26,000 approximately of state tax credits in the 300 million. If you guys are able to do it in this meeting, would you let us move that over to MIP? Or I'm looking at Spencer. Spencer, do we have to do that in the March 20th meeting?
Yes, you do.
All right, so we'll put that on the agenda for March 20th.
I think the statute says up to 200 though. So if we've already, so I don't know that we can move that, right?
I think you're right, Anthony. That would be my concern, is that statutorily we can't move more than 200 over.
Yeah, I think maybe the other way around, if there's surplus in the MIP, we could do that. I think that's the only thing we can do.
Okay, so we'll continue to have a conversation offline so that we can reconcile that.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank
Anybody on the phone?
Nope.
No? All right then, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much, and be safe.
Yes.